Hey, Mama. Looking good. What's the matter? Can't you talk? Come on, baby. Let me go find somewhere nice. Looks like your favorite self. You're very good.
Only when I want to be.
Only when I want to be. I love her in that scene. She's such a gangster. Such a gangster. She's a gangster in that. But I'm back at it with another video talking about this incredible woman, Denise Vanity Matthews. And, you know, it's the Apollonia versus Vanity. But what I really want to get into is Purple Rain have been a better movie if the late, great Denise Matthews was in it instead of Apollonia. Who would fit better? Let's get it.
Yo, man, who's finer, Vanity or Apollonia?
Vanity?
I tell you, don't know too.
One, are you taking Apollonia or Vanity?
I'm gonna go with Vanity. Vanity had the catalog. She's got the longer list of collabs. Vanity's on the time. Look, Vanity hands down, because Apollonia is just the lookalike that had to come around and replace the original when the original was gone. So
yeah, give the edge to Vanity.
I have to go with Apollonia.
I'll be the tiebreaker. It's definitely Apollonia.
So here's the question: what's the all-time? What's bigger, Nasty Girl or Sex Shooter? Say
I played that game today.
Okay.
We are not playing that game today.
In the beginning, that really Apollonia was just a Vanity fill in. You know, that Vanity still is the original woman from Purple Rain, even though she wasn't in it. She's still, associated with it. Why? This is her story. Right? Purple Rain was her story with the Purple Man himself. It was Denise's story, with him. So, people still, like I said, they still ask to today, would it have been better, and all that type of stuff. You see I'll put some of the things up there. And I would say this, you got to give props to Apollonia. Okay, like to me, you can't overlook what she did, jumping in and kind of doing, what she did, but there's a lot of speculation about it as well.
And Apollonia played the love interest. Mm-hmm. Ooh, she was bad.
Yeah, she was a vanity replacement is what happened, because all the way up until basically we shot the movie, it was supposed to be Vanity.
But you and her stay cool because didn't you work on her? Weren't you a part of her debut album? Didn't you do some vocals for her? Because you and her remain cool over the year.
I wrote on her album. I wrote Mechanical Emotion, and I think that was it. But Vanity was cool people. I really, I thought that that was her role in Purple Rain, is what I'm trying to say. And I can't say that it would have been better, but it would have been more realistic for me had she, and not to hate on Apollonia, she did a great job.
Right.
But it was Vanity's role.
Yeah. Have you heard? It's all over YouTube. Have you heard Vanity's version of Sex Shooter?
No, I haven't.
It's all over YouTube, Mr. Day. It's really good.
Okay.
It's a little funkier. Like there's something else too. And I love Apollonia too, but it's a little funkier. It's all over YouTube. I'm sure Prince will be outraged by it, but her version of Sex Shooter is all over YouTube. Yeah, it's really, really good. Like,
speculate that Vanity would have been a better choice for the female lead in Purple Rain than Apollonia. This stems from a few factors: Vanity's acting experience, her close relationship with Prince, and the perception that Apollonia's performance was wooden. Yikes, that's kind of rough. Wooden? Goodness gracious. Additionally, Vanity was originally slated for the role and even helped with the film script, which some believe adds to the idea that she would have been a more natural fit. You think Apollonia's performance in Purple Rain was a key part of the film's success? The idea of Vanity in the role continues to spark debate and speculation among fans. Absolutely still, right?
What?
You have to purify yourself in Lake Minnetonka.
Come on, let's go.
I'm not going anywhere. That was a rotten thing to do.
I'm sorry.
But you were supposed to star in Purple Rain opposite Prince. How did you feel about the movie and not starring in it?
Well, I finally saw the movie, as a matter of fact, and I loved it. I thought he was wonderful. I suppose people always ask me if I regret the fact that I didn't do it. Well, I think that I kind of regret that I couldn't do both. I mean, I would have liked to do both because I love The Last Dragon. I've seen it about 6 times, along with many other kids.
Well, it's getting rave reviews, so
yes, it is.
Thank you very much for joining.
Absolutely. I'm answering this question already right now. Yes, absolutely. Having Denise Matthews in this movie would have taken it to a whole nother level. And one of the main reasons, I know y'all not going to want to hear this, but it is the absolute truth. Okay, I understand Prince had his movies here or there, but she is a better actress. So she would have leveled him up leveled everybody up, really would have leveled everybody up on so many different levels. You know, I think Morris Day was kind of tight, and I've seen Prince in some of his other things that I'm gonna get to, but she's a more natural actress than anybody else in that movie, okay? So that's what I'm saying. She would have just taken it and just leveled up. And also you have to think about it and say, you know, Prince already melted the screen, right? Prince already melted the screen, but look at these two. Look at these two. What do you think they were gonna do on the big screen, right? You have him, you have her, and they would have just melted the screen. Made you experience something you know, like you have never experienced before. I think that's something that Denise would have brought to the table. The movie that she was in, that she did not have crazy chemistry with the guys. I mean crazy. I mean off the charts. Okay, off the charts.
You got a chance to work with Vanity, who was one of the most beautiful young ladies around. What was that like?
She was great. She was great. She's very beautiful. So every time we did a love scene, you know, it was like eye to eye. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and it really showed.
You thirsty?
Oh. I must.
Do you see the chemistry?
Yeah, I'm not afraid.
I'm sorry. I understand. I promised you. I'm gonna do everything I can to find out what happened to your daddy.
We'll bring him back?
No.
So thanks, but no thanks, all right?
I don't get it.
But you see how strong her chemistry was. So we would have to assume that her chemistry would be just as strong with Prince, if not stronger. They would have been, you know, you go look at it on The Last Dragon, this was already happening where, guys, you know you felt that. You felt the chemistry, right? Even with her, with Carl Weathers, you feel it. You feel the chemistry coming through the screen. That's true chemistry right there. So Denise would have taken the movie to a whole entire another level. And it's crazy how much she gets scrutinized and people look back and be like, you jacked that up. You should have did Purple Rain. And, you know, but The Last Dragon, it's a better movie than Purple Rain. If you take the music out of Purple Rain, you don't have much. I'm just being real about it. It was the music. It was the soundtrack, right? That's why the album did what it did as well as the movie, you know, which again, Denise helped with the movie, you know, with Purple Rain. Not only was it her love story, but she was the inspiration, you know.
Because I was, introduced to Prince, and Prince, you know, he, how do you say, he was a man. And I fell in love with him, and he fell in love with me. But then there was a lot of heartbreak, and there was a lot of fussing and fighting, and that you could see that in a lot of the songs that he wrote for Purple Rain.
And people speculate with a lot of, I mean, that's Denise in her own words, right? And people speculate, you know, who these songs were about and all this and that. And I was like, guys, put it together. Who was he with during the time that he made Purple Rain? I mean, not exclusively, of course, but who was he with? Her. Denise, right? So I think the movie is inspired by her. I think the music is inspired by her. So there's no way that her presence and her beauty and her wit, her charm, you know, and her skill set wouldn't have taken Purple Rain to levels that it didn't go to, but then had the potential to go to, and maybe breaking some records of having, you know, how do we say it? African Americans, if you will, in the lead of a movie, and it going bananas. You know, and I think with her, it had the potential to do that. I'm going to get into that. But to think that, you know, she did less, or she did the lesser of the two with The Last Dragon, let me show you something. Show real quick. The Last Dragon, it got I did not know this myself, right? Until I looked one day and I just happened to see it. The Last Dragon, you will not believe, got a higher rating on IMDb than Purple Rain. So IMDb gave it a 6.8 out of 10 and see how much did it gross. And so we see here that The Last Dragon brought in, and you got to remember in this time frame, again, with black leaders in the movie, this was, we just getting started, okay? This is in the 80s, right?
I don't think you hit a $15 million gross in those days just by going for a black audience. So it accomplished what I hoped.
Got some good publicity.
It went as high as #2 in the country.
Last Dragon was a uniting force in the black community, and then it permeated the whole urban community and then went out from there.
So 1985, when The Last Dragon came on the scene, I saw a reflection of myself, a hero that reflects my image. It gave me encouragement. It gave me a sense of esteem as a young person of color growing up in the 70s and the 80s.
At that time, there were absolutely no black superheroes. It was a culture that young black people could embrace and look up to and say, you know what? There's some young black people on the screen. They're doing good stuff, positive stuff.
A girl could do it.
So The Last Dragon brought in 33 million at the box office. Now let's look at Purple Rain. See here, Purple Rain came out the year before. And it got a rating on IMDb as 6.5. Can you believe that? So again, I'm saying that IMDb gave The Last Dragon, the movie that Denise picked over Purple Rain, they gave them the higher rating, right? Okay, as we see here, the film grossed approximately 68 million. Now, we need to keep it real. That is 30 million more, right, than what The Last Dragon did. That's absolutely. But you know, when we look at Purple Rain and we say, oh, it was so much better than The Last Dragon. But then I went and looked, guys. I went and looked and said, what were the top 10 gross movies at the box office in 1984? And I was very surprised to find this out. Check this out. This to be very interesting. So you see the top grossing movies box office in 1984. You had Ghostbusters. And it was, y'all see, we got Indiana Jones. Y'all see what it is. 179 million. Gremlins. We see what it is. 148. Okay. Beverly Hills Cop. We see at 103. Okay. Then we're getting into Karate Kid. 90 million. Police Academy, we got 81 million. Do you see, guys, how I've gone on this list and I've yet to come? I have not reached Purple Rain yet. So, okay, just stay with me. Footloose. Okay, it brought in 80 million. Star Trek at number 8 brought in 76 million. So we got to be getting close to Purple Rain, right? Romancing the Stone. Never heard of that movie, guys. That brought in 75 million. And then here we go with Purple Rain in at number 10. So it is a top 10 grossing movie of 84. So here's my point. If Denise was in this movie, guys, if Denise Matthews melting your screen, you would have Prince and Denise both melting your screen, okay? And if she was in the movie, I believe that Purple Rain would have probably been, instead of top 10, with Denise Matthews, it could have topped Gremlins, or at least tied with Gremlins with 148 million. I think it could have done that. So this is what I'm saying. Like, yes, it was good with Apollonia, give her props and everything like that. But with Denise, I just think it would have, I think it would have made history, right? There's only, at this time, you got to remember this is 1984. So there's only so many movies where they have a black lead, like Prince and Morris Day, and the movie's getting 100 million. There's only a select amount at that time, million, right? All you needed is 70 million more. You telling me that Denise Vanity Matthews can't bring in 70 million more views to get into that 140 million rank? I think it could, and that's what I'm saying. With Denise Matthews, I really believe it would have made history and broke major records. And I just have to mention, man, how epic this was in the movie. Y'all remember when she came down from the thing, from the whatever this is, and came down, and presented herself in the way that she did like that. That was so epic. Seventh Heaven was so epic. I know it gets a lot of hate from media and all that, but everybody knows if you watched The Last Dragon and you went to the movies, you know that is one of your favorite songs, and that's really when the movie got started. That scene was so epic and something that was really missing from Purple Rain because, like I said, she had more success even after The Last Dragon, more so than Prince did, and Prince even had his own movies. I say that because it was his only I'm gonna just give it to you with Prince, right? It was Prince's only successful movie. All the rest of Prince's movies did a belly flop, did a dolphin flop. Okay, what other flops you think of? That's what it did. That's what they did. All the rest of his movies flopped. Why? He was in it. He was making his same music. He got even some of the same people, Morris Day, and some of the same people that were in Purple Rain, because Denise Vanity Matthews was not in the movie. She wasn't the inspiration behind the movie. That's why people got to understand how tied to Purple Rain Denise actually was. And when she's not in the equation, you don't get as good of a product. Now, like I said, they pulled it off with Purple Rain, but that's because Denise had her hands all up in that.
I needed to create. I mean, I'm very much like Prince, and he understands that now and understood that a year ago. We're both leaders, you know, I as much as him, and I need to make my dreams come true, and he needs me to be a part of his dreams, and that's understandable.
Prince's film career is strongly associated with the massive success of Purple Rain. He did not have other movies that achieved the same level of critical or commercial acclaim. Okay? It says that, no, Prince's film Under the Cherry Moon, often referred to as Cherry Moon, was not a box office success. It had a budget of $12 million, but only grossed $10 million, which means they didn't get all the money back. With Graffiti Bridge. I didn't know this until I started looking this stuff up. I would have just assumed all his movies was banging, but that ain't the case. It says, no, Prince's movie Graffiti Bridge was not a box office success. It had a budget of approximately $7.5 million, but only grossed in $4.56 million worldwide. This meant that it lost money and was considered a commercial and critical failure. So what I'm saying is, why wasn't the rest of his movies successful? Because of Denise. It's because of Denise. So the movie she melts whatever camera she's on. It's automatic interviews, even when she started preaching, right? But, you know, interviews, music videos, movie scenes, TV scenes, she melts the screen, okay? She draws you in. It's been, I think, one of the greatest movies of all time, especially back then, because back then you did not have a ton of movies that had, you know, the main characters were the black characters and that they were doing big. That's why Beverly Hills Cop and those type of movies were starting to come about. But it wasn't big like it was in the 90s, guys. In the 90s, that's when everything, you just kicked the doors down, okay? The doors was kicked down in the 90s when you had all these leading, you know, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith and, you know, Set It Off and Friday and all that. That's when all that happened. But in the 80s, it was here and there and here and there, you know, but it wasn't like it was in the 90s. And I just think with Denise Matthews, and again, with all due respect to Apollonia, but I just think with Denise Matthews, it would have taken it to, you know, like I said, to almost maybe close to 200 million instead of it only being at like 68 million. You know what I'm saying? I think it's kind of jacked up. Denise was, you know, the Purple Rain was already ready to go besides them recording when Denise left. So Denise had a major hand in that. She never got props for that. I think that's so jacked up. She never got any props for that. When she was help write it and everything else, was the inspiration behind all of it, never got any props. The thing I really want to get to, leaving, you know, the whole Prince organization, you know, and not doing Purple Rain, not doing, you know, Vanity 6. And she said it was something that she talked to the big guy about, you know, that, you know, she's reformed and everything now, but that's how she talked back then.
It's your story.
Yeah.
The story about the two of you. And that's the time you back out. Why at that time?
But
you knew your own worth, in other words. You felt you were worth a lot.
Well, it was also an excuse, I think. It was a chance to make an escape, I think. And it wasn't because of anything bad. It's just something I knew in my heart that I needed to leave. It's just something that I discussed with the man upstairs.
She dropped that. She said it's something that she discussed with the man upstairs. Now, what I think amazes me about Denise is that she probably didn't realize it at the time that she always kind of had somewhat of a relationship with God. You know, to where he speaks and she does it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you saw there, you know, and Denise is not weak for that. Like, oh man, she can't take the pressure. She can't take this or that. You know, it isn't about that. Check this out. This is something that a lot of famous people struggle with. Majority of them, they don't want you to know this. They don't want you to know this because they want you to want what they got, right? They want you to not be happy what you got and want what they got. So that you're always walking around unhappy, right? That you're always walking around feeling less than. You know, that you're walking around feeling like, you know, you don't measure up in some type of way. That's what they want you to do.
I talked before. Tell me something. Were you really sad inside? I said, look at it this way. How many times have you walked up to somebody and they said, how are you? And you say, I'm doing great. And and really what you want to tell them, you know what? I'm feeling really sad inside. Please help me. You know, when you're into that fame and fortune, what happens is you get so caught up in it that everybody expects you to be a certain way. So you don't want to disappoint them.
Now, I want to ask you about that because when, you know, people say, well, you have made it to the top. I mean, you have arrived. So
God.
Obviously, I mean, this is it. What could make Vanity sad inside?
Oh, everything. Everything that you expected me to be that I could not be. The fear of failure. I felt I was in, it didn't matter how much money that I had or how many movies I made.
How much has success changed you? How different are you? It doesn't change you. Fame does. Fame does. Is there a misconception of the fact that when we become famous that we have these beautiful, perfect lives and that nothing is ever on a low? It's a bad conception because then people always think that you have to be this grand old person that's just happy about life and everything because what, we got money? Well, money doesn't make you happy. It never did. I mean, history will tell you that. And fame certainly doesn't make you happy, you know. People will tell you that who are famous.
I love how open and honest Denise seems to always be. saying the thing that people are scared to say, but are feeling on the inside themselves. And that's what, you know, that's, if you're an everyday person like me, or if you're a celebrity, we're all feeling the same ways, right? We are all feeling these same ways. And so for me with Denise, I think it was the absolute right thing for her to do, to not do Purple Rain, because guys, I feel like, I know this is going to sound really crazy, I feel like Denise was on the brink of really blowing up. I mean, really becoming big time. And I think she felt it too. I really do think she felt it too. You know, with Vanity 6, with, and that movie, like I said, that movie was going to be major with her in it. And I think she felt that on the inside. And I think, guys, I honestly feel the bigger and more successful that Denise got, the more it was going to crush her on the inside. Because of what you just heard her say, what she could not be, the fear of failure, all these other different type of things. And like I said, don't look at Denise like she's somebody different. There's more celebrities that feel that way than ones that don't. Think about how you feel about in your regular life when you go to work, you know, when you go to school, or when you're going out for this job, or you're going out for this thing, and the fear that is there, the fear of failure, the fear of not making it, the fear of, people making, whatever that is, we all deal with that. And so I absolutely believe that Denise heard from the Lord when he said, get up out of there. Because she was, I know this sounds crazy. People are like, no, God would tell her to stay there because she's about to blow up. No, because there's God's way and there's the world's way. Denise was about to blow up and become a big, even bigger name than what she already was, but not the way that God intended. Okay, she was going to blow up the world's way, the culture's way, Prince's way, right? Media's way. She wasn't going to blow up God's way. And when you, a lot of the people, when they blow up and it's not God's way, there's sorrow that comes with it. That's why the Bible says that. No, I always go to scripture, but this is what I feel like initially what God wanted to do with Denise, right? And this is what I'm talking about when we think that climbing the ladder of success, that everybody that is successful, everybody that's on top is God's doing. That is just not the case, okay? It says, Deuteronomy 28, it says, if you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, being careful to do all his commandments that I command you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations. And all these blessings shall come upon you and even overtake you. If you obey, though, the voice of the Lord your God, blessed shall you be in the city, blessed shall you be in the field, blessed shall be the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your ground shall you be when you come in, and blessed shall you be when you go out. Right? Stuff we're doing, and it's man's doing. But the beauty of the blessing that God is talking about is if you will obey me, it says, I will bless, it says, and I will bless you if you keep the commandments of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. And this is what God wanted to do for Denise. We can do things God's way, and we can do things our way and the world's way. Denise really loved Prince. She deeply, Denise loved Prince with her soul, not just her heart, but her heart and her soul.
Are you still friends, you and Prince? Oh, I suppose silent friends. More like silent friends, because we never see each other. It's very, very tough. It would be hard for me to see him because I admire him so much, and I'll probably love him for a long time.
Like, can you hear the pain in her voice? This woman really loved Roger Nelson. That's Prince. And I love how she said we're silent friends. I'm about to start using that. You guys friends? Yeah, we're silent friends. But this is, again, why I say I think it was a good idea, because if she would have actually been in Purple Rain and did all those things, and she was going to have to do not just love scenes, but probably make a love scene and have to do all that stuff and then have that stuff live on shelves forever. You know what I'm saying? When or how would she have been able to heal? You know what I'm saying? Whenever you turn around, every time you turn the TV on, that movie on with you would see on that screen, that man that you loved, that she loved so dearly, but he did not love her back the same way. How was she going to deal with that? That's about to make her big. I mean, big. And what people got to understand about that, it sounds really crazy, but you got to understand that sometimes the devil will take you to a place in success that you can't get back. You can't get back to God. You can't get back to your calling. You can't get back to your purpose because you got all this money and this fame and these people, you know, admiring you. But a lot of times these people are empty still. They're so empty. You got to understand success, fame, money, all that stuff does not fulfill you. And that's one of the reasons why the enemy draws you more to those things than God does.
I don't know a lot of truly happy, famous folks.
People said, you know, let me say it though, I don't know a lot of really happy, famous folk. You know what I'm saying? And that's KB once again. Rain would have been really big, but I honestly think all that success would have crushed her. I just think it would have crushed her. The Lord knew that. And so he led her to get out. You know, in more ways than one, get out of the relationship. That man don't love you like that, you know, and get out of this partnership because maybe without getting, if you don't get out of the partnership, it's be hard to get out of the relationship. So I think it was the absolute right thing for her to do, guys. You got to understand that getting to the top and being, you know, rich and having all this fame and fortune, it does not make people happy. And I love that Denise went the way that she went. You know, God valued her life. He valued her soul. He valued her spirit. And he told her to get out and to move away and to run away from the level of success that was actually coming her way. Because she was about to blow up. She was about to be big and everybody knew it.
It wasn't surprised when she had Susan and I come to her place and she told us what she was doing, what she was going to do. I wasn't surprised that she was doing it. I was just surprised at her timing. And I was very upset and disappointed that she couldn't have done the movie. You know, at least done the movie. We had already gone into a lot of prep work for the movie. You know, the album was pretty much, the second Vanity 6 album was pretty much done. You know, there was a lot of talk of like the tour to promote the movie and the music and the this and that. And it was just like, oh, you know, why now? Why can't you wait? You got to do the movie with us, you know? And Susan and I both tried to get her to stay to do it. And once she got it in her head that she was going to do, you know, make a move doing something, there was no talk to bringing her back. There was no talking her out of it. So
you guys don't know who that was. That's Brenda. That was part of Vanity 6. And you see, you heard in her voice say, "Why now?" Because she knew that they were on the brink of blowing up. They already had a second album ready. Like I told you before, the movie was basically done. They just needed to shoot it, right? She knew. Brenda knew they were about to blow up, you know. And so this is what I'm talking about. And but God also knew, and Denise also knew, and God knew that was not what she needed. Denise didn't need another level of success. Denise needed him. Right? Denise needed to be loved. She needed to be protected. She needed a good hug here or there, right? She needed to be understood. She needed to be loved unconditionally. These are the things she needed that God knew that he would be able to provide for her. I know. You're like, wait a minute. Why are you talking like this? You just took all this time convincing us that Denise would have been better for the role. The movie would have been better, would have made more money. You know what I'm saying? Pockets would have been pop, would have been fatter. Yes, that actually is true. You know, that I do believe that with Denise in the movie, that it would have just went to crazy levels. But that's also the point that I'm making, that when it comes to Denise, that is not, you know, what she needed. And really, that's not what a lot of us need. You know, success is great as long as it's not your life, right? As long as it's, you know, the success doesn't become your God. And that's what was going to happen with Denise, where the success was going to become her God. Love God, love people, may God bless you, may God bless you.
Bills gon' hate, I know it.